Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daphne Mazarura. I am the Planning and Policy Analyst here at the Comox Valley Regional District. I am speaking to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. I just want to say thank you all for joining today on a Friday afternoon and welcome to our first event for the Road to 2030 Comox Valley Climate Action Challenge. We are really excited about this project, not only because it will catalyze community-led action, but it will bring awareness and education to related initiatives and the possibilities of creating a healthier and more resilient and prosperous region. So before we begin, I think Sven already mentioned, I just want to let you know that this meeting will be recorded and it will be shared on the Road to 2030 page. However, we will not identify the names of the participants or organizations. We also have a question and answer session at the end. And you are welcome to send me a private message if you don't want to be identified with your question. And just to let you know that that question and answer session will not be included in the recording. The questions and answers will be provided as a document on our website. So just want to welcome you all again. It's great to see some community members who are working within this region for worthy causes related to the environment and climate action. And so I would just like to introduce our greenhouse GHG accounting team. So we have been working with them on this initiative, and they will be providing the expertise, and they also have the know-how, the insights, and the practical knowledge on emission reduction projects. We also have some members of the CVRD here, and our manager for planning and development services will also be here. So we'll be well supported throughout this project and throughout this presentation with our co-hosts. We'll take a look at the agenda for the day, for the session. So we're going to start off with the background, and the purpose of this meeting is to just provide you a more detailed information about the Comox challenge, and just to provide you with what you need for preparation, the timeline, eligibility, and selection criteria. So I'll start off with a little bit of a background about this project. So this project is a participatory competition, and we want to support community-led action projects that advance the reductions of greenhouse gas emissions and try to reduce this at our midterm target of 50% greenhouse gas reductions from the baseline set in 2007. So this program aligns with the CVRD's board's strategic drivers for climate action and community partnerships. There is $27,000 available to either award one project or up to 3 projects. This amount is actually being funded by the budget that's been set aside by the CVRD for carbon offset purchases. So the board directed this amount to be allocated to a community granting program. And the main purpose is really to have this grant for projects that do not have the scale or capacity to participate in traditional offset markets. And just continuing with the background of this, this project also aligns with our regional growth strategy, which has a long-term target of 80% greenhouse gas reductions by 2030. 150, and then by 50% by 2030. It also aligns with the sustainability strategy, which also aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we also at the region are trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and have climate change initiatives within our corporate operations, and that is seen also in the corporate energy plan. And we're in the process of just of undergoing activities to update this corporate energy plan. So that's just a high level of the climate action at the region. And continuing with that climate action at the Comox Valley Regional District, we have various initiatives, and this is just a list of some of those initiatives that are related to climate action. So we have Transition 2050, which provides support and encourages energy efficient retrofits within the region. We have an active transportation network plan, and we also have partnerships such as the province with the BC Climate Action Charter, where we try to achieve, where we do achieve carbon neutrality. We're committed to achieving carbon neutrality from our corporate activities. And the corporate activities, these are the activities that that have greenhouse gas emissions from operations in providing services within the region. So what makes Road to 2030 a unique and different challenge from all of these initiatives that we have here at the region is that it empowers the community to lead and present their ideas. So we are also encouraging and looking forward to the participation of youth in this project, because the voice of the youth has been bold not only in the world but here within the Comox Valley, and it has shown that they want to participate in a more positive and sustainable future. So I'll just hand it over to GHG Accounting and they'll continue with this presentation.
Thank you very much, Daphne. Erica, you want to take us through the timelines?
Yeah. So you can see the timeline. So we start today with the preparation period, and today is the information session, and here we are. And starting from today, there are different tools available. The first one is the forum. So you can ask all your questions on the forum, starting from today until June 1st. A second point for the preparation period is a virtual GHG emission reduction workshop that will take place on April 14. Then the challenge will officially start on Earth Day, that will be on April 22nd. It means that you could start to apply with your project ideas on April 22nd, and you can apply until June 1st. Then there will be the winner announcement on June 18th and an award ceremony on June 26th. And so let's go a bit more in detail on how you can prepare. So there is a web page that is connectcvrd.ca/road to 2030, where starting from today you can download the application form where you can start to look at it, and so you will know which kind of information you need to provide about your project ideas. And you can also download the program guidelines that will give further information about this program. Then there will be on April 14 the virtual GHG emission reduction workshop that will take place again on Zoom. And as I was mentioning, there is this forum on connectcvrd.ca/road to 2030. You find it at the very end on the of the landing page. You have to scroll down until the end. And it looks like this. This is a screenshot, and is a great tool to communicate openly and transparently. So you can ask, but you can also check other people's questions, and you can share your ideas and interact with community members. So who can apply? Can apply community members in CVRD. And in CVRD is included City of Courtenay, Town of Comox, Village of Cumberland, the Comox First Nation, and electoral areas A, B, and C, excluding Hornby Island and Denman Island. We encourage you to work in a team, and a bit more in detail of, who are the eligible applicants, so no-profit and NGOs, community-based association and groups of any age, educational institution, indigenous communities, and private individuals. And not eligible applicants are municipal, provincial, state, territorial, and federal governments and political parties. And I leave.
Thank you very much, Erika, for walking us through the basic framework of this program. There's also an aspect that is included in this program. It's that that our focused areas are defined. The reason for that is to be, as the name suggests, to be focused on specific activities that will lend itself from a community perspective. These are topics that have been in the past been discussed, or they're important, and also will focus within or connect with activities that the district is already undertaking, and it would be helpful to see support from the community fund. Obviously, the first one being renewable energy, as most greenhouse gases, actually 75% of all of them on a global scale are related to energy production. So therefore, renewable energy production is an important part for emission reductions. And then on that scale itself, of course, transportation is both a concern. Just to give you some examples. So renewable energy production could be like solar, wind, or geothermal production, and with always the emphasis that the projects in this category will enable community benefits. So it wouldn't be like putting a solar panel on just one individual house. There are programs for those things, but it would be enabling maybe more than one community member to have access to technology or knowledge about technology, or a community cooperative that joins together forces, like for example in Nelson, as it happened in Nelson, to enable renewable technology from a community-driven point of view. And then of course transportation being an important consideration within the community itself, but also from an inventory point of view, transportation of course hugely also contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, and that's something that we do every day, and that we need as an every day, and so therefore transportation is also an important factor. The program encourages you to focus on one of these areas, to be very, very focused on this. So if it's really transportation, or if you're producing renewable energy for the purpose of transportation, is fine, but the emphasis should be done on the renewable side and how to enable the energy generation. And transportation can also be new forms of transportation, cooperative ways, or electrification, or even the reduction of transportation or active transportation, or means that are enabling more active transportation. Solid waste management, of course, again, another area of where more so if a personal footprint is affected from how waste is handled. And one of the obvious ones is, of course, the diversion of organic waste. That, of course, ends in the landfill. That creates a lot of methane emissions. But there are also aspects of the products that we use every day. And if there are means and ways of reuse of material, local reuse. This is not the idea of collecting materials and sending them half around the globe with a very large footprint, but more a utilization of local resources, that materials that are collected also utilized locally, and therefore not only reducing the emissions of transporting the waste or having the waste create emissions somewhere, but also avoiding emissions from utilizing a waste material rather than using a virgin material that requires new energy to be produced, and also transportation energy. Water management, of course, is something that we need every day, and water is also an important resource, but it's also an infrastructure element of the natural environment of the district. And so handling fresh water and wastewater requires a lot of energy, and managing this and innovative solutions of utilization of rainwater, for example, on a larger scale would be a consideration to reduce the amount of energy that has to be used for non-drinking water purposes, but also how to handle wastewater, what kind of maybe other alternative ways there are to handle wastewater, to bioremediation or other means would again reduce emissions from an energy point of view that's utilized to handle the wastewater, but also from a perspective of maybe using, for example, bioremediation to handle wastewater and nutrients in there and turn that into biomass rather than having that being either contaminating the watershed or being emitted as emissions into the atmosphere. And then another area would be the focus on sequestration. So any forms of utilization, of revitalization of natural assets that are sequestering, in this case, CO2 out of the atmosphere. But in the case of restoring wetlands, there's also an avoidance of emissions, because like not properly functioning wetlands are also a big source of emissions. And so re-wetting wetlands that have been drained previously will lead to an emission reduction. And of course, the enhanced growth and natural growth within either afforestation or wetlands, or maybe even growth in the sea, like seagrass beds, have a strong sequestration capability. And then, of course, more specifically related to waste, but also related to food production, food safety, and resilience. So the ability or ways and means how local food production could be encouraged entrenched within the community and avoid emissions that are related to the production and transport of the food, but also the ability to have a circular economy where maybe nutrients from some other sources are used to produce a waste products of one industry or one food producing industry can be the food for some others. And there are some projects you might have been aware of where fish tanks and a greenhouse plant production are like combined to a circular infrastructure where you can have the production of food. But again, in all of these areas, I just named examples to illustrate what these areas are for. You very much encourage to look at other innovative solutions within these categories that would contribute significantly to emission reductions that are happening within your region. Okay, let's go to the next slide. There are, however, activities within this that would not be covered and should not be covered as an emission reduction activities under this program. And there would be pursuing legal action, lobbying or advocacy. On the side of the sequestration part, for example, the planting of trees for beautification purposes. Sure, if you plant a single tree somewhere, it will also reduce emissions, but not significantly. So those programs should be focused on making a significant difference, and therefore beautification projects will not be considered. Also, just planning something in theory might not be such a good idea, because we want to see, or the program wants to see, actions that are actually can be realized. So it needs to have the community support, because all these projects are designed to come from the community point of view. So just a theoretic planning wouldn't be a good idea, would not be a logical activity. It should be the actual, this is the interest, or this is the demand, or here is the opportunity, very concrete, and those activities related to that should be included. Also activities that are outside of the community, like attending conferences or traveling somewhere, should not be part of the budget that's applied for the funding. It should be activities directly in the community, driving credible and significant changes within the community. And administrative expenses that are maybe associated with that are accepted to a certain level of the budget. So please make sure that you keep an eye on those things. It doesn't mean that maybe through other means you can cover those expenses, but the application should have like a clear understanding that the majority of the funds is spent to enabling activities within the community. Okay. So we also have a clarity in the program about the criteria. So I alluded to them a little bit already. And there are, of course, the impact of reductions of greenhouse gases. That is the sole focus, to support the community on the road towards 2030. And so having that demonstrated in the application is a very critical part. And it's also critical to be able to explain and quantify the emissions. So a general statement saying that will be good for the environment will be very hard to have a transparent and credible understanding of how this emission reductions take place. So if it's like a sequestration project, it will be what you consider the trees, the growth are actually sequestering carbon, and that will lead to an emission. If you are using bioremediation, there would be also an avoidance of emissions from the effluent being otherwise emitting methane into the atmosphere. And that would be a clear definition of how emissions will be reduced from this activity. Or if you are creating a co-ownership of a renewable energy facility, it will be a reduction in energy and related intensity of greenhouse gases. So it's quite important to stipulate exactly of how this reduction takes place. And that will be an important part of the selection criteria of that demonstration. The impact should be community-wide. So it's a project that just benefits you as an individual person. So like the classical example, putting just solar collectors on your own roof would not be a bit, I mean, it would reduce the emissions within the community, but it wouldn't enable additional benefits throughout the community. So the difference to that would be if you start a resource center that provides information about how to utilize solar energy, that will create a benefit for everybody. Or you create a purchasing cooperative for solar technology, then that group will enable a benefit to the community as a whole. And that will, of course, also be an important criteria to look at, that the application shows how it benefits the community. Feasibility relates to both having a clear understanding of what the impact is and how it benefits the community. So feasibility should include that there is support in the community for this, that this is wanted, that this is the kind of solution that the community would like to see. And of course, also a realistic from a technology, ideally you are able to point at other projects where this has been successfully realized, and you can say, well, it worked there. So the likelihood that it will work in our community is very high. On a lesser importance on the list, scalability. So ideally, it's able to do this more than once, whatever that is. But it will have a lesser impact on the selection criteria. The first three are probably the most important ones, and scalability will be ideally that it could be copied within the community, ideally, or maybe a neighboring community, so that it has a wider effect. That the impact of this activity is somewhat, at least, envisioned as part of the application. That yes, this is easy to copy, or it's easy to expand within the community. And of course, also durability. In the end of the day, the emission reductions should be permanent and not be easily removed. And also, the project ideally has a perspective of a longer-term persistence. So whatever activity there is not just, oh, we avoid once to use the car, but it should be like a solution that will actually last over time, because it's a solid solution for an alternative transport. and will go on for quite, or it's a permanent, as much as permanent as that's possible. So those are the criteria to look at, and also hopefully gives you a better idea of how this program is supposed to support the community on their road to 2030. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Yeah. Thank
and
you,
then
Sven.
Erica is going to share with us then the exact details of how to apply.
Yeah, exactly, the technicality. So from today, starting from today, you can download the application form in the documents section of connexiverd.ca/road to 2030. You can describe your project, answer the question in the application form and sign it. And then starting from April 22nd, it will be available a project submission tool that looks like a survey, as you can see here on the right. And you can submit your application form through this tool that you will find always scrolling down until the end in the landing page of connexiverd.ca to 2030. So to be more inclusive, we also have a hard copy option, but we strongly encourage everybody to apply through the online submission because it is more practical and also more sustainable. And so recapping next steps, we encourage you to visit our webpage where you can find all the information and the documents. You can download the application form, you can consult the program guidelines, you can already register for the virtual GHG emission reduction workshop. That is an opportunity to learn more about GHG emission reduction quantification. And you can share your ideas and your question on the forum, always on connexiverd.ca/road to 2030. And now is your turn. So which are your questions?
So since we don't have any written ones, it looks like, or Daphne?
No questions in the chat. No,
okay,
nothing
then
so far.
I'm gonna pause the recording so we can open the mics